Ayo. So I wanted to do my own EDC loadout video because I just keep seeing everybody's EDCs, everybody's everyday carry loadouts, and personally, I think some of them might be going a little bit overboard. That's just me, no judgments. Everybody can do what they want, but I think some people are just they're doing a little bit too much, you know. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over the things that I carry on my everyday basis, starting with a bag. I think we're all past the time where we can keep a fat ass wallet in the back pocket because when you sit on that thing, it is terrible for your spine. It's bad for your posture. You don't want to be sitting on a fat ass wallet for a long time. So I carry a bag with everything I need in it. Currently, I'm just using this Tommy Hilfiger bag. It is not a gun bag. It's just a regular bag, crossbody. Have a wallet big enough to carry anything I need. Keys, always for the house. And I keep a pocket knife in here just in case. You never know when you might need an extra blade. Of course, I keep one on my person, but it never hurts to have one in the bag. So definitely just have a few essentials in there, nothing crazy. I know some people that carry firearms like to keep a tourniquet on them, which I'm not saying is a bad idea. I just feel like I'm not really going to need it, especially if you're handling your firearm correctly. Last but not least, I just have a garage door opener. That's just my personal stuff. Pretty much keep whatever you want in here. When I go to the gun range, I keep my headphones in here. Anything else that I might need to carry. If I go pick up some ammo before I go, it'll fit in here. It's got a pretty deep space. I like it. It's got a pretty tight zipper seal on it also, which I absolutely love. And it came with a anti-RIF scanner that I keep in here as well. So that's just the bag. Keep that on me everywhere I go. Second is this self-defense Buddha meditation bead necklace. This is something that I love because, you know, not only does it look cool, but you can use it as kind of like a nunchuck if you need to. You can, you know, swat away an attacker. You can also, you know, just strike them if they try to come up from behind you. You can use this to put around their neck, kind of choke them out kind of thing. But it's got a very natural swing to it, just like a pair of nunchucks. So if you're familiar with that weapon, this definitely comes in handy. It's very strong. I trust this thing, so I like to keep this on me all the time, just in case. You never know when you might need an extra set of defense. Next, I guess I'll go ahead and talk about my Rock Fit towel. I live in Las Vegas. It gets very hot, especially in the summertime. It's starting to warm up around here. I tend to sweat. It's nice to have a utility towel that's not taking up space in my pocket. It's got a carabiner clip on it. I can just attach this to my belt loop. This is made by a company called Rock Fit, ROKFIT. Very nice design, very clean. It's a very strong material that's very absorbent. I was worried about it being too abrasive, but it's actually very soft. I really rock with this. So keep a towel on me. You can use it as your utility towel. Wipe your hands with it if you're working on, you know, machines all day. If you go golfing, you can use it as a golf towel. They have a lot of really cool designs. I definitely recommend this to anybody that's looking for just a general utility towel to have on hand. Next, I keep a pocket knife. Of course, I think everybody should always have a blade on them. It just comes in handy when it comes to whether you're opening packages or, you know, fiddling with your car or trying to do something, or if you need to defend yourself. You know, it's always helpful to have a nice blade. This is a folding blade by Civivi. This is the Civivi Vision FG. I really like this knife. At first, I went with the Civivi Yonder, which is a really nice little knife as well. It's got a really nice looking Damascus blade on it. But what I found out happening was, for some reason, the blade came undone while it was in my pocket. And I reached in my pocket to grab it one day and it stabbed myself in the finger. I was not a fan of that. So I returned it and I got the Civivi Vision, which has a different locking mechanism on it. So you can, you know, flick it open with your thumb, but you can also use the little back locking lever here. You push it down and it loosens the blade, so you can just flick it out. I like this knife. It comes in regular steel and it comes in a black steel option. So far I haven't had any problems with it. It's a very sharp knife. I've used it to, you know, slice limes in half, open steak packages, cut boxes, you know, things of that nature. It's just a nice little knife to have. I did learn recently, though, when it comes to self-defense using a pocket knife, there have been instances where people would try to stab with the blade, and this actually, not this particular knife, but other folding knives, it could possibly fold under force and cut you. So that is one thing to keep in mind when it comes to using a folding blade for self-defense. You probably want to use it as more of a slashing option, more of a cutting option than a stabbing option. Um, for stabbing, I do have a fixed blade knife. I just never really carry it unless I'm going out to like the wilderness or something. But I do have a fixed blade knife, which I would definitely prefer more for stabbing if you had to. Hopefully you never have to cross that scenario, but if you are ever in a situation where you have to defend yourself using a folding knife, definitely try to slash. Go for the eyes. It's always my best advice. So definitely keep a nice pocket knife. This one was about $95 on Amazon. Civivi, they do make some nice products, so I definitely like the shape of the blade. It's just nice, especially the color of the handle. It's a really nice nice touch. So definitely want to keep a good blade on you everywhere I go. Next, I think this is what everybody really wants to know about, is my everyday carry firearm. So I just got back into the firearm game last year. I hadn't had a firearm since 2009 before then. I think a lot of it has to do with where I was. I went to trade school for a few years out in Reno, couldn't have a firearm, and after that I just really couldn't afford one. So now that I'm in a spot where I could afford to buy another firearm, I picked up a, just go ahead and clear, show you everything is clear there. I picked up a PSA dagger. I was looking at different firearms and I wanted something that was budget friendly, that wasn't going to break the bank, and I decided to get this. It was only about $375 before taxes and shipping and handling and FFL transfer fees and all that good stuff. You can get them cheaper in some other places. I've heard people get them for like $300, maybe a little bit less. Sometimes they have deals on the PSA website, Palmetto State Armory. But this fit my needs. This is a clone of the Generation 3 Glock 19 platform. It uses the same internal setup, similar structure, but the outside is a little bit different. It does have the extreme carry cuts on the end of the barrel, which you can't tell because I did put a compensator on there, which is a whole other conversation I'm not going to get into. Some people are iffy about everyday carry compensators, but they do call them carry compensators for a reason. So I did go with the PSA Dagger Compact in a FDE, flat dark earth tone, also known as dark taupe. Of course, you want to keep a flashlight on your gun. I can't stress this enough. A lot of crime happens at night. I'd say probably most crime happens at night. But if you're ever in a situation where you need to defend yourself, it doesn't help if you can't see what you're defending yourself against. So always say, if you're going to carry a firearm, put a flashlight on it. That's number one. You don't have to put an optic on it if you don't want to, especially if you can't afford it. Put a flashlight on it. This is a Streamlight TLR1HL. It's only about $150. They do make a version for more compact carry versions. I believe it's the Streamlight TLR7X or the 7. Both of them have a shorter profile that kind of line up and stop kind of where the end of the barrel is. I wasn't really worried about that too much. I wanted to get a good light option that I knew about. I knew the TLR1HL was popular, so that's what I went with. In the future, maybe I'll get a TLR 7X for my next setup, but honestly, I'm really interested in the Surefire, what is it, the Surefire 3000 or 3X Pro, whatever it is, whatever the cops carry, the Surefire. The thing is like $300, $400. It's a very expensive flashlight, so if you're gonna get it, you better be sure to use that motherfucker. I carry this with me everywhere I go. I have this on me every day. I did put an optic on it. This is a Hollow Sun 407C with the green dot in a 6 MOA size. I do prefer green over red because I think my eyes just pick up the color spectrum a little bit better than red, especially with like, I have astigmatism, I'm like nearsighted, things like that. I do prefer a slightly bigger dot in a green. If you do decide to go with a smaller 3 MOA or even a 2 MOA dot, I have learned that if you turn the brightness settings up all the way on the green dot, because of the extra glare on the dot, it'll kind of seem like it's a 6 MOA dot because of the size. But I keep mine relatively low dim just because, when it comes to trying to be convert or covert, let's say for instance somebody were to break into your home, you don't want to give away your position, not having such a bright glaring light shining through the reticle might help. Of course, if somebody is breaking in your house, I am the kind of person where I'm going to want to make sure they know where I am, because I want them to know that I see them and I want them to get the fuck out of my house. You could also, strobe them if you need to, let them know that you mean business. But whatever you do, get a flashlight for your gun. You want to be able to see what you're shooting at. I did go with the Harrington Arms HCDG compensator, which was specifically designed for the PSA Dagger platform. It's got these little wings on the side that kind of fit into the extreme carry cuts on the slide. And I'm not going to go into a full review on the compensator because that's not what this video is for. But I will say that I did have a couple issues at the range. Nothing catastrophic. It's just the setting screws kind of came loose a little bit. But doing a little bit of research, there is something to combat that. And the body of the gun got really hot, hotter than it usually would without the compensator. I think I put maybe 150 rounds through it before this part of the gun became so hot I couldn't touch it. I had to put my finger on the flashlight, or my support thumb on the flashlight. So I have some tape on the way, some that I'm going to put on here that's supposed to block some of that heat. But that is one thing I'll say about a compensator. But luckily, this is an everyday carry gun. This is for situations where it's an emergency. I shouldn't have to fire it that much to the point where I have to worry about how hot the gun's getting. I'm just using this to defend myself and get away from danger if I need to. So this is my EDC firearm. I do carry a extended magazine, +5. So I have 20 in a standard Glock magazine, which this gun does take. It does take Glock mags, with the, my preferred hollow points. So I do advocate for firearm carry. If you are going to try to protect yourself, if you're looking for the best tool to do so, I don't think you can beat a firearm, honestly. It's good to know some sort of martial arts, some sort of hand-to-hand combat in case you're in that scenario where, maybe you can't get a few rounds off. You might have to defend yourself a little bit more first. But when it comes to, the final line of defense, you can't go wrong with a firearm. So I definitely advocate for that. I do carry a Nerd holster. I have a couple holsters. I have another one by We the People, but I do prefer this one just because it has the monoblock clips, which hold it in place better than the standard plastic clip that comes on the We the People holster. This is my We the People holster. This is a company made here in Las Vegas, or they're based here in Las Vegas, but they ship everything out of California. It's a good holster. It's not bad. Sometimes it loses the retention a little bit. I just have to make sure I'm staying on top of that. But this clip, it doesn't stay in place as well as the monoblock clips. This kind of allows me to freely move the gun around my gun belt if I need to reposition, which I kind of like because, if I'm sitting down and maybe it's a little bit uncomfortable, I can just kind of move it a little bit. And, I'm not really worried about, knowing where it is if I need to draw because I can feel it. That's one thing I think people exaggerate a little bit about holsters is like, oh, you want to train, in the exact position you're going to be, drawing your holster from. I can move my holster anywhere on my belt that I want to. I'm going to know where it's at because I can feel it. So I think that's more intuitive than just muscle memory. I mean, muscle memory is good, but knowing what you feel is definitely going to help out. So this one does slide around a little bit more. So if I'm going out and about, I do prefer a monoblock like this. This holster, it did come with a little extra length on the sweat guard, but it was poking me in the side when I sit down too much. So I actually took a pair of clippers and I actually cut it down a little bit so it was a little bit more with that length. But what I noticed is, and this is something I wouldn't recommend, I would just recommend shopping for a different holster. What I noticed is when I have the firearm in the holster now, it used to go straight up like this, which I was preferring. But now since I cut off that piece of the sweat guard, it always cants forward, which isn't a huge deal, but it does affect the grip a little bit. And then when I go to reholster, it's not as effective. It used to just boom, slide right in, but now I kind of have to angle a little bit more and get it in there, which is kind of annoying. So I am actually shopping for a new holster at the moment. to kind of replace this one. But you know, good holsters are really expensive. They run upwards of like $150 for the top of the line ones. But for now, this does the job. It does have the wing on it, which presses against your belt and causes the holster to press against your body more, so it conceals it better in the daytime. And especially when you have an extended mag like that, sometimes that can kind of stick out of the back of your shirt. But having that wing, the holster combats that. You can also get a concealment wedge. Some companies make a concealment wedge that goes in the back of this. It looks kind of like this. This is a concealment wedge. This is the holster that I cannot use because it is not light bearing. This is by JX Tactical. They do not make a light bearing holster for my gun. I bought this and spent $100 on it. Can't even use it, so I'm trying to sell this. But yeah, you can get a concealment wedge like this, which just kind of presses against your body and makes the gun press against your body more. So that's also helping conceal. But you never want to carry a firearm without a good holster. Part of the reason for that is because it's safer. You know, back when cowboys were carrying the original 6-shooters, they had to have a holster because those guns are very unsafe. You can drop it; it was not drop safe. It can go off if you drop it, and they needed a holster to cover the trigger for the most part because those guns just were not safe. So you want to have something that covers the trigger adequately, because I think we've all heard stories of uncommanded discharges, especially with the the Sig Sauer P320 platform. I think there's a recent story all over the internet right now about a gun that went off when it was in somebody's holster at a training class. It's also happened to a couple police officers while they had their gun holstered. And that's a scary thing to think about. You know, there was no obstructions to note that were in the holster. That's one thing that can happen, is if you have an obstruction in the holster, such as, your shirt gets tucked into it, or there's like a string in there or something that can get into the holster. When you're putting a gun into a holster, it creates a tighter fit. If there's an obstruction inside that holster and it gets its way around that trigger and it squeezes tight enough, it can cause the trigger to pull and go bang. So that's why you always want to look inside of your holster before you put your gun inside, to make sure there's no obstructions like that. But with the Sig P320, there is no obstructions. It just has a faulty mechanism inside, I believe, that's causing it to go bang. So you want to get a good holster that covers that trigger guard so nothing can get in there while you're carrying your holster. I believe there's another story of a police officer that was like at a carnival or something, and a little girl managed to get her finger into the holster, so it didn't have a tight enough fit. She managed to get her finger in there and pulled the trigger, and it went bang. Nobody was hurt, fortunately, but that is something to think about. When you're carrying a firearm, you definitely want to keep that trigger protected. Because this is based off of the Glock platform, it does have internal safeties. I'm not going to go too much into that, but definitely get you a holster that protects that. Now, you don't want to just carry any old belt with your holster. This is one thing that I had to learn the quote-unquote fun way. You want to get a good quality belt that's meant for this game, because this is a heavy object. This needs a sturdy platform to hook onto when you're going to draw. If he doesn't have a sturdy platform to hook onto, you know what's going to happen? When you try to draw that weapon, the holster's going to come up with it, and that's no good. You can't defend yourself with a holstered weapon. So I do carry a Core Essentials belt that has the ratcheting system, so it ratchets every like quarter of an inch, so you can kind of retain the size. I'm not going to take it off because I do have a spare magazine carrier on the side, but this is a Core Essentials belt. This is one of the best gun belts on the market. It's about $65. It's definitely worth the money, but you want to have something that's strong. Actually, you know what? I'll take it off just a second. So you want something that holds its own, that holds up, right? See how strong and rigid that is, like how stiff it is. I mean, you don't want something that's obsessively stiff, but you want something stiff enough. This holds up to 10 pounds, which this gun definitely does not weigh. So you want something strong that can hold that gun. So when you go to draw, just like this, it's not taking the holster with it. It's just taking the gun out, just like that. So you want to get you a good, strong gun belt that can hold this up. Core, they do make a bunch of different colors. They even make leather. If you're like more of a business attire kind of person, they do make a leather core essentials belt. I prefer the black. Black goes with everything in my opinion. But this has their patented ratcheting system, which is really nice because you can kind of tighten it piece by piece as you go. The teeth inside of the belt, it's got a little hook here, and it just kind of latches onto these little hooks, these little teeth as it goes along. So it kind of, and then it doesn't come undone. You have to actually click this little lever right here, and that will allow it to come loose because you're releasing the hook from the teeth. It's a great belt. It's got a very strong core. I haven't had any issues with it so far. There is a little bit of wear and tear on the side from where I keep my gun, but it hasn't affected the function of the belt yet. These are cool because when they come, it's got more length on it. It comes in the same size for everyone. And then what you do is they have these like little measurement tabs. So you're supposed to measure your waist size and then add, I believe, 2 inches to it or 4 inches to it, and then cut it. And then where you cut it goes inside of this hook or this buckle. There's a little latch here that comes undone. So it goes inside, you latch it shut, and then it's got these 2 little Allen key screws that you tighten. It's very tight, very secure. This is one of my favorite EDC items just because it's just a cool belt. If you're going to carry a spare mag, I think everybody's going to have a different preference. I just bought this cheap little elastic magazine holder that goes on your belt. It was close-ended at first, but I didn't like it because it was making it harder to put my magazine in, so I did cut a slit at the end just so I can shove the magazine all the way in easier. I actually am ordering another one that's on the way. That's it's a Velcro that latches around the belt, so it's easier to take on and off. Also made by We the People. But whether you're gonna go with something that's like elastic, or if you're gonna go with the Kydex style magazine holders, this little, it's kind of like this. It has a hook on it. It goes on your other side of your belt, but you can keep a magazine in it. Some of them hold 2 magazines, but I really don't feel like I need too many extra mags out and about. I have one 15-round magazine. I think that's gonna help, and then a 20-round magazine, so I have 35 rounds on the ready, so I think I'll be okay. But that's just my general EDC, what I carry every day. Try not to keep it too funky, keep it real slight, because I don't think you need too much while you're out there. I know some people have like 2 different knives, they have a flashlight and all this good stuff. I mean, it's not bad carrying a flashlight. I don't like to carry too much, especially on my person. If anything, I would recommend getting a good bag so you can put all that stuff in it, so you don't have to constantly have all this extra weight on you, especially if you need to run to get away from certain danger, or if you need to run in general. You don't want to have a whole bunch of extra weight on your pants, because that's just going to make it hard. If you have to climb over a fence or something, you don't want to have a whole bunch of extra weight dragging you down. And not to mention when it comes to general men's fashion, I know baggy pants are back in right now. I don't really like baggy pants. I like something that's a little bit more form-fitting, or I'm not saying I wear skinny jeans, but I just don't like a whole bunch of extra baggy material because it is heavy, does add extra weight. And if you find yourself in a situation where you have to submerge underwater, baggy ass pants aren't going to help you out. They're going to drag you down more. So that's something that I try to avoid. So I just kind of try to keep that in mind when it comes to EDC. I don't want it to be too heavy. I want to feel like I'm, kind of natural going about my day. So that's what I'll say about EDC carries. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what everybody else is carrying, but I keep it basic, I keep it light, keep it functional. So that's it for now. I guess I'll see you next time.